Does your body know you're going to your in law's house before your calendar does? You wake up and something in your chest is already tight. You haven't even gotten the kids dressed yet. Nobody has said a word to you and you're already braced. How many of us know that feeling? We also know that the drive home from there, the quiet one where your husband will ask you what's wrong and you say nothing, and you both know that isn't true. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Insia and this is the Muslim Marriage Clinic. I want to start with something small, deliberately small, because the thing that is actually running your marriage is almost never the big dramatic incident. It's a small one you never got to put down. My client mentioned an instance of her life, and this is how it goes. It was Eid, a house full of people, subhanAllah. She cooked, she was carrying everything around, she had been up on her feet since Fajr. And somewhere between the tea and the dessert, there was a line, said lightly, said in front of everyone, said with a smile, "Beta, next time, less salt." That's it. That's the whole crime, the salt. And she laughed. Of course she laughed, because what else do you do in a room full of aunties? She laughed and she passed the plate and she refilled the tea and she did not stop moving for another 2 hours. But something went into her body in that room and it did not come out. Not that night, not that year. Because it was never about the salt. It was about standing in a room where she had given everything she had that day and being corrected in front of everyone and understanding in 1 second that no matter how much she did, she was going to be assessed in that family, not received. That is the actual wound. Not rudeness, the smallness, the feeling of being the one who's always slightly on trial in the house that you're supposed to belong. And here's what she did with it. She took it home. She said nothing to her mother-in-law. She wouldn't say. She's not been raised that way. But she got quiet with her husband, a degree cooler. And when he mentioned his mother the next week, her face did something. Nothing you could point at in an argument. Nothing she could be held to. But he could feel it. Then she stopped suggesting they visit. Then she started having a headache on the days that they did. Then she began keeping a private file. Because that's what an unforgiven thing becomes. A file. And every new comment went into it. And every old comment got read again in the light of the new one. 2 years later, she could recite that file to you with dates, and she still had never said one honest sentence to anybody about it. Now here's the part she didn't get then. Her heart began to become harder and scared, not just from her mother-in-law, but for all the pain that she was feeling with her husband, who had no idea of the war within her heart and her head, to say or to let it go. How would it help? How would things be different? Would it get worse? Would he be able to handle the conversation? Would he be kinder after her sharing what she felt? What she eventually had to face is that her mother-in-law had said one sentence about salt, and she had built 2 years of distance from her husband on top of it. Her mother-in-law wasn't in her bedroom. She wasn't in her marriage. She wasn't there anywhere. But my client had carried her mother-in-law by herself every single day and then blamed her husband for the temperature of a room she was cooling. And it was so much easier to keep her as the problem, the mother-in-law. I want to be really honest about that because I think it's a real reason we do this. As long as the mother-in-law was the problem, she was innocent. As long as she was innocent, there was nothing for her to work on. Making your mother-in-law the villain to let her off the hook for the only thing she actually had control over, herself, her feelings, and what was happening between her and her husband. What broke it open was when we were discussing what the verses in Surah An-Nur were talking about. It is that incident of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu, when after his own relative had taken part in slandering his daughter Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, his own family, a real wrong was done, not an imagined one. And Abu Bakr swore he would never spend on that man again, which, if we're honest, is exactly what our hearts want to do. And then Allah revealed, let them pardon and overlook. Would you not like that Allah should forgive you? Sit with that for a second. Allah did not say the wrong didn't happen. He did not ask Abu Bakr to pretend or to call it a misunderstanding or to decide he'd been too sensitive. The wrong stayed a wrong. Allah asked him to let go of carrying it, and he tied it to the very thing every single one of us wants more than we want to be right. So while we worked together, my dear client understood that forgiveness was never a gift she was giving her mother-in-law. It was a weight she was allowed to put down. And here's the sentence I want you to sit with. She may have handed you the stone, but you're the one who has been carrying it into your own bedroom every night. And those are two very different problems with two very different solutions. Different is not the same as wrong. He grew up in a house with a normal, so did you. How loudly people talk, whether the door is always open, whether you're expected to eat before you're asked, how much of your business belongs to everyone. Half of what we call disrespect from in-laws is a household running its own normal without checking it against yours. Because a mother-in-law raised in a joint family where privacy was not a value and everybody's business belonged to everybody is not necessarily trying to intrude on you. She may be doing exactly what closeness looked like where she came from. That doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. It means the meaning you assigned to it might not be the meaning it was sent with. And husn-e-zan is not naivety. It's refusing to make a case against someone in your own head that they never got to answer. Let's look at it this week, one incident. Ask yourself, is this actually harmful or is it different from what I know? Not to excuse it, just so you stop spending the same energy on both. You only have so much and you're burning it on the wrong things. Under most in-law pain, there isn't rage. There's this smallness, the feeling of being assessed, ranked, compared to a sister-in-law, being a guest in the family you were told to call your own. And sitting right next to it, unnamed, is something we would rather die than say out loud, that we have not actually forgiven it. Any of it. Because it sounds petty to admit that a sentence from 4 years ago is still in you. So we never say it. And an unnamed thing does not stay still. It hardens. And then it comes out sideways as a tone, a headache, a scheduling conflict, a comment about his mother in front of your children. And I want you to feel the weight of that last one. Your son or your daughter is learning how a woman speaks about her husband's family from you. Not from a khutbah, from you. Write down in one sentence, in your own handwriting, no drama, no defending yourself, what was done, what it made me feel about myself. That's it. Most of us have never once put the actual wound into words, and you cannot set down something you've never been willing to name. And because I want to support you in rebuilding that connection with yourself and your husband through all of this, I've put together the free mini training on how to rebuild this connection. It's in the show notes and it walks you through the first steps you can take. What this is doing to him and what he does with it. When you're quietly at war with his family, he does not experience it as you defending yourself. He experiences it as being asked to choose. And a man who feels he's being asked to choose between his mother and his wife usually doesn't choose. He goes quiet. He goes to work. He goes on his phone. Then you read the withdrawal as him not caring and you cool a little further and neither of you have said a true sentence yet. Because in our cultures, honoring his parents is not a preference for him. It's tied to his deen and his sense of himself as a son. Bir al-Walidain is an obligation Allah placed on him, not a betrayal of you. When you resent them, he often hears that he is being resented for something Allah asked of him. And here's the part that comes back around to you. Whatever tension he carries between his mother's house and yours, he brings home and then you live with it. So say the actual need out loud once without putting it in the file. I need us to leave by 9 is a request. Your mother always does this is a case. He can act on a request. Nobody can act on a case. They can only defend themselves against it. Silatul Rahim is an obligation, and it is one of the heaviest ones in our deen. It is also not the same thing as unlimited access to you, your home, your phone, and your nervous system. Maintaining a tie means the tie stays alive. It does not mean you perform a closeness that is costing your salah, your sleep, and your softness with your own children. Because many of us are running on a version of this we were handed rather than one we ever read. That a good daughter-in-law is endlessly available, that saying no is cutting off, that any distance is a sin. So we overextend, we deplete, and then we snap. And the snapping does more damage to the tie than a calm limit ever would have. Depletion is not more Islamic than boundaries. It's just louder about being tired. Decide your version this week and make it small enough to actually keep it. One call, one visit a month, salam sent every Jummah, something you can maintain for the next 10 years without resentment, because a tie you can keep is worth more than a performance you'll abandon. 2 ways this goes wrong, and I've watched countless ladies live at both ends. 1, you take over, managing his relationship with his own parents, reminding him to call, coaching him on what to say, getting more invested in his family repair than he is, and burning out doing a job that was never assigned to you. 2, you withdraw so completely that you become a guest at every gathering, polite and absent, and then feel like a stranger in your own family life and blame them for the loneliness. Because his relationship with his mother is his, and it is between him and her and Allah. You're not the manager of it. You are also not required to vanish to protect yourself. Both extremes come from the same place, a wound you never processed. And both of them cost you the same thing, which is your own presence in your own life. Hand back one thing this week that was never yours. Stop reminding him to call his mother. Let him carry his own relationship at his own pace, with his own conscience. And show up to one family thing as yourself. Not the performance, not the ghost. Just you at whatever temperature is honest today. Comment one word. The word your body feels the morning of a family visit. Just one. Dread, tired, small, fine. I want you to scroll that comment section and see how many of us are carrying a stone somebody handed us years ago. I've put together how to rebuild emotional connection. It's in the show notes, and it walks you through the first steps I take every wife through. If this episode is speaking to you, that is your next step. And if there is a friend, another sister in your life who goes quiet every time her in-laws come up, send her this one. That might be the kindest thing you can do this week. Barakallahu feekum. I'll see you next week in the clinic.